Guys, Dolphins Nation, it's your host, Larry K for Phin-Addict Fury. It's great to be with you on a Victory Sunday. We finally have a Victory Sunday. I am here. The lights are a little dim because it's later at night. We set our clocks back last night. If you haven't done it, do it now. The kickoff was at 1 today. Felt more like 2 in our biological clocks, that is, because we set the clocks back last night in most states across the United States. If you're across the pond, if you're anywhere else, of course, you may have something different going on. But look, finally a win. It feels good to have a win. Clemente, what's up? Fins up. It feels good to have a win. I just want to let you guys know a little bit what's going on with the channel. I like to do some live stuff. I'll be doing some other videos that I'll pre-record and then put out. We'll do all kinds of stuff. But if you get the chance, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Please like the live videos and the other videos when they come out. Please share the channel. Please share the live streams and the show with other people when they're on, because we are trying to reach a threshold. There's a certain threshold you got to reach with YouTube. You got to get to 1,000 subscribers. And once you get to 1,000 subscribers, there's all kinds of other features and things that I can do with the channel that I'm unable to do right now because we don't have the 1,000 subscribers. So please go ahead and share it, and please smash that subscribe button. Also on my page, there's now a donate button. You could donate anything you can to the channel. If you have anything laying around, you want to donate something to the channel, it will help me, again, upgrade the way I broadcast, upgrade the whole format, upgrade the whole system, and bring you guys more and more content. So if you can donate, if you can subscribe, if you could share the channel, that is just greatly appreciated, and I really appreciate it. But look, we won today, guys. We won by a score of 17-9 in Miami Gardens, Florida, to a crowd that, let's be honest, the crowd was a little bit sparse. There weren't a ton of people in there, but nonetheless, they were loud. You could hear the crowd through the TV. They were loud on third down. They were loud when the Fins got a turnover. They were loud when we scored. The energy was in the building. We played our hearts out, and that's all you could really ask, and we got the W. Now, does this mean we're turning the corner? We're going to be one of the best teams ever? And, look, guys, let's be realistic. Let's be objective. We still have issues, but it's still nice to get a win. But look, so just some interesting little tidbits. This is the first time that the Dolphins have had this many turnovers in a game with this many turnovers and still won. This is a game where they've had that many turnovers and still won, the first time since 1990 when Dan Marino was the quarterback. There were a bunch of fumbles. Dan threw one interception in that game, and they still managed to win. That was against the New England Patriots. So it was a lot of firsts there. I think this is either tied or the most combined turnovers in a game all season. Brissett threw 3 interceptions, if I recall correctly. There was also the fumble by Holland on the kick return. Houston, what up, Bleezy? Fins up, fins up. Houston turned the ball over a bunch of times. Tyrod Taylor threw, how many? 3 or 4 interceptions himself. I got some stats here so I can obviously take a look at them, but, I like to just kind of riff with you guys after the games. Yeah, so Tyrod Taylor had 3 interceptions. Brissett had 2 interceptions and a touchdown. Brissett, look, did he play amazing? Did we see Brissett miss some throws? Yes, we did. Did we see Brissett hang tough, though? Did we see Brissett move the offense as best he could? And did we see Brissett kind of withstand a pass rush? Look, did he fumble the ball? Yeah. When you saw he was trying to let the ball go at one play, somebody ran up behind him, knocked the ball loose. Our line today, I would say, was, I guess, serviceable, right? I mean, it wasn't very good as usual. They allowed a lot of pressure, but they were able to do just enough to spring some decent, no big runs, but decent runs when we needed it, just to get a couple yards to keep the defense honest. They were able to protect Jacoby as best they could so that he could free himself a little bit and so that he could sling the ball around the field a little bit. And that was all huge. The defense. Now, look, the defense came up huge in this game. The defense came up huge, and I want to point out a specific thing with the defense here. Because last week, there was a lot of speculation all over the media, not just with me, although I did mention it as well. You see Brian Flores last week with a, laminated, paper over his mouth like he was calling plays last week for the defense. And there was a lot of speculation as to whether or not he called it. Of course, he denied that, but he also denied what was going on with the offensive play calling earlier in the season. So it was interesting that the defense seemed to play better last week, even though we didn't win. Seemed to play better last week. And then this week, the defense had a great day. Now, how much of that is the incompetence of the Houston coaching staff? How much of that is just that Houston is not very good? Probably a good portion, right? Let's not get ahead of ourselves like we did it to the Ravens. We start doing that to the Ravens, we can kind of congratulate ourselves. But right now, it's the Houston Texans. But nonetheless, the defense showed out today. I mean, the key to a defense, and everybody knows this, but I'll just reiterate it again. All you guys know it, right? And I agree, Bleezy and God Soldier. Look, some bad throws were down the field. There were some bad reads, but at the end of the day, he did enough to win, and we got to be happy with that. And I'll get to the quarterback situation in a few minutes. I do want to discuss the quarterback situation a little bit. But look, with the defense, everybody knows this, but this is especially true in the NFL, right? In the NFL, guys are just too fast on offense. They're too skilled. They're too quick. They're too schematically sound. Even the bad teams are schematically sound to the extent that you need to get pressure on the quarterback on defense if you want any chance of slowing down virtually any team in the NFL's passing game. You need to stop the run. That's important. You at least need to keep the run honest. But the key in the NFL to being a good defensive team, and this has been the case for several years now, probably 10 to 15 years, 100% it's been the case. If you want to have a good defensive showing, and you want to have any chance of winning in this league, you need to be able to put pressure on the quarterback. Because if a quarterback has enough time, I don't care how bad you think their receivers are, I don't care how bad you think their passing scheme is, I don't care. No matter what, if you don't get pressure on the quarterback and he has all day to throw, he is going to find an open receiver somewhere, and he is going to fit that ball in, and he is going to make a play. And once he makes the play, you're going to be in deep trouble. And I apologize for the sirens outside. I guess there's a fire going on and whatever. But today we did that, right? That's one of the main reasons we won the game. We put immense pressure on Tyrod Taylor. And I got to hand it to the coaching staff on that one. We outcoached, maybe for the first time all season, the Miami Dolphins outcoached somebody. And the Miami Dolphins outcoached Houston with the blitz packages that they were sending at Tyrod Taylor. Every play, it seemed like, there was some linebacker coming up a gap, there was some safety coming off the edge, somebody was freed, and Houston had no answer. Houston just had no answer. I don't know if offensively they are just that incompetent with making their offensive adjustments. But whatever the situation was, they just did not have an answer for the Miami Dolphins pressure packages. And that was probably the key to this game. Tyrod Taylor was forced into mistakes. The first interception that Holland made in the end zone, I mean, that changed the momentum of the game. And there were momentum changes throughout the game. But Miami really maintained the upper edge, right? Again, I always talk about football feelings and kind of if you've been watching football for so long, you get a feeling and you get a feel for the game, right? You kind of know which way the game's going just by feeling where it's going. And there's games where you think the whole time you're probably going to win. And there's games where you think the whole time you're definitely going to lose. And then there's games where you like feel it slipping away or you feel yourself coming back. How many agree with me, and just put it in the comment section, how many agreed with me today that you were kind of chilling today, right? After the first quarter and whatnot, there was a little scare towards the end when they drove down and they got it to within 8 and it was 17-9, a little scare. Maybe we won't move the ball. Maybe we're going to let a close game slip away again. But for the most part, the feel of this game, you just felt like we got this, right? Like, we just kind of owned that game. And a lot of it had to do with the pressures. And then you just felt like the defense was always going to come up with a play, right? Even when we had a turnover, you just felt like our D was playing well and that we were going to come up with a big play. And Craig Madden says we brought a lot of pressure. We brought a ton of pressure. And here's the thing. If you recall last week, there was an interview last week. Where Xavier Howard said, we got back to playing the kind of defense we were playing last year. We got back to playing the kind of schemes and implementing the kind of tactics that we had implemented last year. And so you guys agree, and I appreciate that. You feel the games, guys. Like, we're dedicated, devout fans. We feel the games. We feel the momentum. And this is one of those games we kind of owned. But last week, X said it. X said we kind of went back to playing how we play. And this week, if you notice, again, it was more of that. And how does Miami want to play? It's not hard to figure out how Brian Flores and how the Miami Dolphins want to play defense. Miami wants to play defense by paying two elite cover corners. Okay? And being able to play man coverage with those corners, one who can cause turnovers. And I understand X has had a rough year. I'm not saying that, they're having the best year ever. Byron Jones, by the way, a couple times he got burned. But see, Byron Jones isn't going to show up in the stat line when he's having a good game. Byron Jones is not going to be, coming away with all kinds of picks and forced fumbles and sacks. And then he's just going to shut his man down. And I don't even think he's having a terrible year. I think he's been okay. I think X has had a less than stellar year. But X was never the shutdown corner. X was always the guy who's going to come up with a big play when you need it. And he hasn't really done it as much this year, aside from the first game. But back to what I'm saying, the Dolphins want to play a pressure defense. That's why they invested so much money in the corners. Even Needham, who had another good game in the slot, we invested money in the secondary because we want to be a pressure defense. We want to bring pressure. We want to rush the quarterback. We want to send an extra man at the quarterback. We want to force him into making a quick decision. And then we want to have the cover corners on the outside that can defend against a quick pass and won't get burned when we bring pressure without help over the top. And if you recognize what we did today, we got back to that. And Kevin, thanks, I respect that, my brother. We got back to that today, if you pay attention. And that's a big reason why we won. Now, I don't know why not last week. I don't know why over the course of this season, we decided to get rid of veterans and then not run the kind of defense that we were running last year that brought us so much success. But I'm glad that at least it looks like this coaching staff and this regime, at least it looks like they have recognized that they went in the wrong direction and they have adjusted. It took them half the season, which is frustrating because maybe if we had gotten on track, we could have won a couple more of these games and we might still be in the discussion for the postseason. But at least we figured it out, so it bodes a little better for the future. It seems like we got back to playing the kind of defense we want to play. Every team builds their roster, offensively and defensively. They build their roster in order to fit the kind of football that they want to play and the kind of system that they want to implement. This regime has built their defense, theoretically at least, not always happening in practice, but theoretically, they've built their defense to be able to bring pressure, relentless, constant pressure on the quarterback and still cover deep and still cover on the outside. And we showed today that when we do that and we play to our abilities, when we play a system that caters to the roster we have built, we can come up with a W. That's what today's game had showed us. We need to continue to build and play systems and schematically and establish and construct game plans that fit our roster the way the defense did today. And that's how you will have success. Cap for life, what up? But that's how you will have success. And John says, the issue for Thursday is Lamar Jackson's mobility. We had a problem chasing down Tyrod Taylor, so I think we're going to get smoked Thursday defending. Look, I'm not under the illusion that we are going to beat Baltimore. We just traditionally, culturally, Baltimore is just built to beat us. They just are. They constantly kick the snot out of us because they're this, tough team that just matches up so well against us, and we don't match up well against them. I'm not under any illusions that we're going to pull out Thursday, but I'll be rooting for it. And I agree that part of the problem with teams with mobile quarterbacks, as John points out rightfully, part of the issue with mobile quarterbacks is we're bringing all this pressure, and we've sent the corners to defend the receivers. And if the quarterback breaks out of those first couple tackles and gets free, well, now we got one-on-one on the outside. And like I said, if he has too much time, somebody's going to get free. Or he's out in the open field and we don't have somebody on him because they missed the tackle. That is, when it turns into a backyard football game against us, we don't do well exactly because of how our defense is structured. But that's another story for another day, and that's something we're going to have to figure out. We're going to have to maybe get more elite linebackers. We're going to have to do something to beat a Josh Allen and to beat, Baltimore and these other teams with these mobile quarterbacks. It's not going to be easy, but that's it. Now I'm looking at God Soldier saying on the sideline in the fourth, Landon Roberts talking into his ear. I saw that. I was wondering what that was about, and he says, I'm not a professional lip reader, but I think he said, it's coaching. Did anyone else peep that? That is an interesting take. That is a really, really, really interesting take. I did not see the lip read, but I saw him talking, and I was wondering what he was saying to him. I don't want to spread rumors, because I don't have the answer, but I will, if somebody has an interesting observation, I'll put it on blast. I'll put it on blast here. We have heard Tua's trainer kind of come out and diss the coaching staff. We have heard that there may be dissatisfaction from some players on the coaching staff. So maybe if Tua's a voice in that locker room about the problem with the coaching staff, maybe Landon Roberts would say that. Now, maybe it's what I said, and it's not really Flores' fault himself. Maybe once Flores took hold of the defense and started calling the right plays and the schemes were working, maybe Roberts said, it's the coaching. See, they got to figure out how to game plan better. They got to play to our strengths. They got to do what we do best. They got to get back to what we do. Maybe he was saying that. Maybe he was saying that to Tua. And that makes sense because however you slice it today, we got a W, and it was primarily, not totally, but it was primarily the result of our coaching staff calling plays and bringing pressure the way our defense was built to do it. Now, the other side of that, and there's always two sides. You need the coaching and schemes. You also need the players to execute. It's never just one or the other. You need both to work in tandem to have success in this league. At the end of the day, the players also executed, right? When there was an interception to be made, they made it. When there was a hit and a tackle to be made in the backfield, they did it. When it came to bringing the quarterback down, they did it legally. They didn't incur penalties doing it. When it came to defending the pass, they didn't interfere with the receivers. So when Tyrod was struggling and he was making some decent throws, but a lot of overthrows and a lot of other problematic throws because he was being pressured, we didn't commit any penalties to negate our good defensive play. Those things, the defense really worked in tandem with the game plan and did quite well. And that was the primary reason we won. Look, we scored 17 points, okay? At the end of the day, that's not blowing the lid off of anything. That's not anything, crazy, 17 points. So the defense, when you stop any NFL team and you hold any NFL team under 10, that's a great defensive performance. We had a great defensive performance. When you score 17 offensive points, you did enough to win, and they did do enough to win, but you didn't have a great offensive day. So I'm putting this W on the D, and I'm not dissing the O. Now, I'm seeing Bleezy's question. I'm seeing the Tua talk. I want to pivot. I want to talk about the quarterback situation, and you guys give a good segue. I don't think Tua starts Thursday. You know why? I think it's two reasons. I think, number one, when this kid has injuries, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with Tua, right? And I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with the organization. But whether you see them as building around Tua for the future and protecting him, or whether you see Tua's camp and them protecting him because he's going to be gone, i.e. Tua doesn't want to lay it all on the line because he's not going to be here forever, and why lay it on the line and get hurt again or incur a serious injury or exacerbate a present injury, for a season that's in the toilet already and for a team that he might not be with, or whether you say the Dolphins want to protect him because they want to trade him somewhere and they want to uphold his trade value, and any more injuries will harm his trade value. However you want to look at it, I got to think they're playing a little bit safer with Tua. And if he's got any kind of lingering injury that could be worse or could hinder his play, I don't think he's going to play. I don't think so. And the other thing with Tua, we've seen now, he had the hip injury in college. He had a lot of other injuries in college, and I want to talk about this. He had the rib injury earlier this year, and he was out for such a huge stretch of the beginning part of the season. And now, all of a sudden, he's got this finger injury, and he's out today. Why would they turn around and throw him back in Thursday when the offense was okay? Let's face it. Jacoby Brissett is a good backup QB, right? He's the kind of backup QB where if your defense plays well and your players on offense execute well enough, he can get you a win. Like, he's not one of these backups that you throw in and it's over. You have no chance because he can't do anything. Jacoby can play ball. He can win you a game. He can fill in if somebody gets hurt in the middle of a game. But Jacoby's not going to set the world on fire. Jacoby's not great. And this whole debate, can we finally stop now? We have 2 wins this season. One was Tua, and he played okay. And what did we score in that game? I don't remember. Was that another, it was a low-scoring game again. And X made the play at the end that sealed the game for us. And then we had this game. And it was another low-scoring game. But in one game, Tua started, and one game, Brissett started. Okay, so they each have 1 win on the season. This whole idea that when Tua came back, and by the way, Tua played against some of the worst teams in the league too, just like Brissett did today, but he played against Jacksonville, who hadn't won a game in over a season. And he played against other teams that were questionable, and he still lost those games. So this idea that Tua was so much better than Brissett, or when Brissett came in, it was going to be such a huge drop-off, that's all nonsense, all right? That's all nonsense. Brissett and Tua, they're about, look, does Tua have more velocity on the ball and all of that? Is he a little more accurate? Yeah. King Mill, what's up, bro? Good to see you. Good to see you in the live. Look, does he have a little more velocity? Is a little more accurate? Yeah. But is Brissett better at withstanding the pressure, staying in the pocket, taking hits? Did you see Brissett today in the line? By the way, see him saying, get over there. Not playing games, you over there, you directing traffic so Gesicki didn't have to do it. Did we see that today? The drop-off is not immense between Tua and Brissett. The drop-off is just not immense between the two. And so it's interesting that today we won with Brissett. I don't think Tua plays Thursday. And it was funny because the same narrative persists, but I think a lot more people are starting to realize whether you love Tua or like the kid. I like the kid as a person, and everybody I've talked to about this likes the kid personally. He's a good kid. He's a nice kid. He's a leader. He's a hard worker. He's a good student. He's a good person in the community. Tua's a good guy. He's a Miami Dolphin, so of course we all want him to succeed. We all want him to win. We all want him to do well. But the thing is that there are certain drawbacks to Tua as a franchise quarterback, and I see slowly people starting to realize that no matter what we want, no matter how badly we want him to be great, no matter how bad we wanted the tank for Tua thing to come to fruition and we wanted it to pan out the way we would have liked, no matter how hard we wanted that, there are just drawbacks to Tua as a franchise quarterback. And one of the main drawbacks, forget the play on the field. Forget if he even gets on the field. All we're saying is he can't. One of the first things before he gets on the field is he can't even get on the field. That's one of the biggest drawbacks. When you have a franchise quarterback, you want a durable guy. Now, there's always going to be a freak accident. There's always going to be a freak injury. There's always going to be something nagging. There's always going to be a concussion protocol. That's not anybody's fault. That's not anything you could put on one player. But when it's constant and it becomes a pattern, even like Devontae Parker, love him, great player when he's on the field. We can all agree he's not on the field that much. He's good for at least 4 or 5 games a year at minimum that he's not going to play. Tua's the same. And when you lose a Parker, at least you might have somebody to fill in. When you lose your starting quarterback, you can't just plug and play. You can't rock with a franchise quarterback who's good for 4 or 5 games a year that he's not going to play. Bleezy says it, durability. You need a quarterback if he's going to be your franchise guy who's got durability. And today I saw some of the people already when Tua was out, and this was a surprise, right? We knew about the ribs. And you could put the ribs on the offensive line because it was a freak hit. You know, they just whiffed, and, you know, Buffalo's so good. Buffalo just smashed them and threw them on the ground. You can put that on Buffalo all you want. But this injury, you can't, guys. This is a freak practice injury where he breaks his finger. That sucks that he broke his finger. I feel bad for the kid. But somebody said when it happened, they said, oh, the kid can't catch a break. And I was thinking, yeah, the kid catches a lot of breaks, a lot of broken bones. He's constantly catching breaks to his vital bone structures that we need when he's playing NFL quarterback. I hate to say it. I'm not trying to knock the kid personally, but he catches all kinds of breaks to his bones. And that's not going to cut it long term as a franchise quarterback. And the thing is, you see today, right? You know, and TD mentions this a lot. And I'll remind you guys, again, just please smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Smash it. Hit the like button on the video. Share the video. Like I said, there's a donate button if you want to donate something to the page so I can get up to that level where we can start having the super chats and we could do all that and have all those bells and whistles. Throw some donations, throw some subscriptions. I appreciate that. But listen. And our goal for subscriptions is 1,000. A G. We're looking for 1,000 subscriptions. We get up to 1,000 subscriptions and all of a sudden we got all these cool things happening. So that's our goal. So you guys are my family from jump. And I know a lot of you already now because a lot of you by your screen names and names, I know you now because you're on my show all the time. So you're my family, right? This is the Phin-Addict Fury family right now. All that consonation. Phin-Addict Fury family. That's what we are. So we'll all celebrate when we get to 1,000 subscribers. That's the goal. But back to the football talk, okay? Back to the football talk. TD mentioned this a few weeks ago. He mentioned this maybe at the beginning of October or the end of September. He mentioned this. And it's true, right? He said that when Brissett's playing, if Brissett has a bad game, then it's all Brissett's fault. Brissett sucks. You know, they call him Brisket. They got problems with him. He can't read the field. They don't trust him. He's slow. He throws slow. Whatever it is. Okay? But when Tua plays and Tua has a rough game or Tua has a mediocre game, then they all say, oh, it's because the line didn't play well. It's because his best receivers were out. It's because he didn't have all the receivers in. He doesn't have enough weapons. He doesn't have a good scheme. He doesn't have good play calling. Well, let's break this down. Brissett won today. And he didn't have Will Fuller, because no one's really had Will Fuller all year. He didn't have Devontae Parker, because Devontae Parker's been out, and I'm gonna do merch. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm still getting this thing off the ground, and I have other endeavors that I've done, so I kind of have some prior experience with the whole thing, but not enough to be well fine-tuned quite yet. And I'm just starting to get into the merch and everything. I got the logo that I put together, so I'm trying to get some merch together to put that logo on, because I think that logo is kind of dope, and it's a throwback to the old school Fins, which is kind of the whole vibe I'm putting out right here. So all that stuff like merch and whatnot is going to come out. And if you guys have any ideas based on things you've seen before, or things you'd want to see, or some kind of merch that you would like to get for yourself, let me know. Just reach out to me. Reach out to me on Twitter. Reach out to me on Instagram. All my links are on the channel now, too. You can click them. You can connect with me. Reach out to me anywhere. Reach out to me on private messages on YouTube, on email, whatever, and let me know what you want to see, and we'll get it done. Now, the thing is, we give it to all those excuses, but how about Brissett today? No Devontae Parker. No Will Fuller. A line still not playing good. Albert Wilson making one catch, dropping a bunch of other catches. Merritt, who gets brought up from the practice squad. I actually feel bad for Merritt right now, because he had the one good catch for a first down, which is awesome. And good for him that they won, because it's not going to be a lot of emphasis on his play. But he dropped 2 balls. He had 2 key drops, and I feel for him because he's getting his first break in the NFL. It's hard to be great all the time. Not just with football, with anything. It's hard when you get your number called and there's a lot of pressure on you to do well. I feel for him because he had 2 big drops. But Brissett had all these drops, didn't have 2 of his best receivers, didn't have great O-line play, got planted a couple times. There was a play where, remember that play where you had the face mask? First they hit the face mask, then they pulled the face mask, and the ref is standing right over top of him on the replay. Right over top of him, and he's begging for a face mask call. Jolie, what's up? Begging for a face mask call, and he doesn't do anything. So, it's just crazy. He didn't have all the goods either. But, he still succeeded in getting a win. He still persevered. He still got the win. So he's not going to get the excuses. But my point in bringing that up is, with the same set of players and the same set of adverse circumstances, he got the win, right? So this idea that Tua is so much better than Brissett, it's not true. Tua is not that much better than Brissett. The results are almost exactly the same. And that's a problem. Why is it a problem if Brissett and Tua are almost equal in offensive output? What's the problem if they're almost equal in offensive output? The problem is that no one sees Jacoby Brissett as some franchise quarterback, and no one sees Jacoby Brissett as certainly a franchise-changing quarterback. No one sees Jacoby Brissett as a franchise-changing quarterback. No one thinks he's a generational guy that's going to carry us for the next 15 years. No one thinks that. So if Tua is just as good as him and no better, then we really got a problem with Tua at that point. We really do. So that's what you got to think about. Now I want to talk about coaching too. While I gave props to the coaching, when it came to the defensive play calling, finally putting defensive players in a position to succeed. I got to give props there. Where I got to kind of, again, point out maybe a learning, and God Soldier says it, like we need a consistent QB to win, right? Like imagine if we had, and I don't want to go back because this is, I'm not going to keep talking the whole season because it's tired and it's played. I'm not going to sit here and talk the whole season about Deshaun Watson and Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, it's for now, it's on the shelf, right? For now, it's off the table. We don't have to get into it. For now, it's on the shelf. But if we had a quarterback at that type of level as far as playmaking ability, doesn't have to be him, could be anybody, a top 5 QB, a legitimate top 5 guy, added to what we have on defense and what we can accomplish we have a chance to be a playoff contending team. I wouldn't say Super Bowl contending because we got rid of so many veterans that we have so many problems throughout the roster. I'm not going to lie and say we're just a QB away because we're not. We're a lot more away. But we would be much better than we are now. Because even imagine today, Brissett was serviceable, and I'm giving Jacoby all the props in the world. He got us a W. It's a victory Sunday. I'm having fun. I'm chilling. But if we had a quarterback who was better, if we had a quarterback who was a real, true game changer, who pulled out some more of those plays that Jacoby couldn't, who made some better reads that Jacoby couldn't get done, we would have scored 30 points. I mean, Houston wasn't playing great. Their defense was open for the taking. So it just makes you see where our weaknesses are. And I want to talk about coaching because, you know, one of the other things with Brian Flores, and I think a lot has been said about this. I think there's a lot of validity to this, and this is something to discuss even in a win, that we really should look at even in a win. Brian Flores may have a ton of potential. I think Brian Flores does have a ton of potential. I don't think Brian Flores, is any kind of terrible coach or, doomed to failure for the rest of his career or anything. But I do think that there are some questionable things that Brian Flores has done, especially on game day. We can talk about his inexperience. I think his inexperience, he's going to learn over time. But one of the things is not bringing in any experienced coaches to work with him. He's consistently hiring guys as inexperienced as him to be OC, DC, position coaches. And I think that's been part of the problem. His, hubris that he could exile veterans and keep younger guys in and win. I think that's led us to where we are now in terms of kind of a 2-7 record. But one of the things I noticed today that also points to his inexperience, which I hope he will learn over time, was did anybody see the stats with his challenges? I think he's only won something like 30% max of his challenges. And did you see the play he challenged today where it was Houston was driving, they were near the goal line, they were in the red zone, and they completed a pass to the tight end, I believe. They completed, or was it to Emmett? They completed a pass, okay? And it was only a 2-3 yard gain. I understand that yards mean everything that close to the end zone, right? You're looking at the possibility of a run, or you're looking at something that really has to be a pass. It changes the way you play defense. It changes the options for Houston. I understand all that, right? But if you look at the replay, the receiver's foot was clearly in bounds. I mean, it was not even that close. And even if it was close, the call on the field was in bounds. Yet he was challenging that it was actually out of bounds. And he lost the challenge, and he lost the timeout because he lost the challenge. And had this game gotten closer, had this game been closer, that could have really hurt us in the end. Why do I bring that up? I just bring it up like, when you look at Flores, he's got a lot to learn in terms of game day coaching. Okay, game day coaching, he's got a lot to learn. And that's just one example of it. I really didn't understand that call. Now, towards the end of the game, I thought he made a great call when he ran it 3 times. We didn't get the first down, so he punted it. That was a beautiful, beautiful call as far as I'm concerned because he pinned them deep. That is exactly how you play that kind of end-of-game situation. So he's had games where he's done it well, but the challenge just brought up another, indication that Flores really needs to touch up his game, and he's still got a lot to learn as far as game day coaching. Now, I'm seeing the comments here, and I want to address what's going on in the comments. Brissett is not afraid to throw long. No, Brissett is definitely not afraid to throw long. I mean, he launched it a couple times. Some of them were bad throws. Some of them were picks. He'll throw long if we can get open and if he can get the time. Part of the problem with our team, and this goes for Tua and Brissett, they don't have a lot of time. They don't have a lot of time because the offensive line is just not playing great, okay? So they're not going to have a lot of time, and they're going to not have a chance to force it down the field. They're going to try to dink and dunk when they need to. Both of them, I think Brissett and Tua, are cognizant of the fact that they don't want to turn the ball over, especially when the defense is having a good game. So I think that's part of the problem. I don't think Brissett's scared to throw long. I think Tua might be a little afraid to throw long because of what I talked about last show when we were talking about how he was brought up not to turn the ball over. and it's been beaten into his head so much. But I think he wants to do it. I think Tua might struggle with it. I think Brissett struggles with it too. They just don't have the best arms in the league that are going to light people up and be accurate downfield, and that's a problem. Now I'm seeing in the chat, though, just to move past that, I see a lot of talk about Mike Gesicki. Let me tell you something, and then I'll get to this whole thing about Odell, because I want to address the Odell thing. I really do. But first, this Gesicki thing. Look, this is one of the things I've been beating the drum about too, and I've been beating this drum for a long time as well. Over the last 20 or so years, this franchise has consistently drafted players that have turned out to be good or serviceable players. And then when it comes time to sign a contract, which is, again, people could complain all they want about players not being team players, players being greedy, players thinking they're worth more than they are. People could complain about that all they want, but let's face it. When you're in your 20s, you're an exceptional athlete. You're a very good, high-caliber pro athlete. And everybody's telling you, and everybody's right when they tell you this, including your agent, that, you know what, kid? You're going to have one chance at a big payday. Your rookie contract, because of the way the union and the owners structured the negotiations last time, your rookie deal is not going to be a huge payout. Your rookie deal is going to be some kind of structured thing. The team is going to be paying you the least amount and getting the most production because you're in your prime. Your second contract after your rookie contract, well, your first contract after your rookie contract, your second contract overall, that's your chance. That's when you're going to make the most money ever because you're optimal, right? You understand that you're an optimal asset at that time. You've learned how to play in the league. The game has slowed down for you. You're now a pro in the league for a considerable amount of time. You're considered a veteran in the league. And once you're a veteran in the league, your price is optimal because now you know how to play. The other end of that is you're still young enough. You're still young enough where you have several more productive years in you as a player. So your value at that time is at its absolute highest. And not only is your value at its absolute highest on your second contract after your rookie contract, but you are going to rapidly get older. And as you rapidly get older, your body is going to fail you no matter how hard you train, no matter how good of a player you are, no matter how much of a football mind you have. Any of us over 30 know this for a fact. And you could tell by my hair, all right? My hair used to be a lot more full, I promise you, okay? You start to decline after 30, and that's the way it is. And football players don't get to play football forever. So for anybody who says players are greedy or they're trying too hard or whatever, when their value's at a maximum, they need to demand that they get what they are worth. They need to demand it, and that is fair, and that is objectively true, and there's nothing wrong with that. And when Mike Gesicki comes up for a contract the end of this year, Miami needs to pay Mike Gesicki, okay? Because we have consistently, nonstop, every time without fail, when a player is homegrown in our system, we haven't kept our homegrown players since like Jason Taylor. X is maybe the first player we kept. We constantly grow these players, and it's, you look back at somebody like Chris Greer, and everybody wants to knock Chris Greer, and everybody wants to tear down Chris Greer, and I'm not saying Chris Greer is so great. I'm not. One of his biggest shortcomings is what I'm about to say. But it's not like Chris Greer and the scouts and this front office hasn't made good draft picks before. They've made decent draft picks. It's just that we constantly turn around and got rid of those picks. We either trade them away for less value on the dollar, or we don't pay them and we let them walk. This philosophy that Miami has had for 2 decades, needless to say, it's not working. And the records and the culture of losing and the culture of constant 3-year rebuilds, that bears that theory out. It doesn't work. This hard-nosed idea that we're not paying you, we're going to let you walk, we're going to trade you when you're at your best value, whatever. You're not the New England Patriots. You're never going to be the New England Patriots. When you home grow a player And that player is a Miami Dolphin through and through. And that player is one of the better players at his position in the league. And that player has grown into that good of an explosive player. And he cares about the city and the people of Miami. You got to stop letting them walk. Now, you don't have to sign every single player depending on your philosophy, depending on your salary cap. But we have the cap space. We have the cap space. What are we using the cap space on if we're not going to use it to sign Mike Gesicki? A guy who loves the organization. A guy who plays his heart out. And just look at the performance Mike Gesicki had today. Look at the performance he had today. Take a look at it. The guy is constantly playing with the utmost energy. The guy is constantly giving his all. I made a comment to my family. I was sitting and watched the game. I said, you see his shoulder pad? You see his jersey? It's green. It's dirty as hell. Why? Because the man is in the mud for this team. The man is jumping all over the field. The man is playing his heart out. The man cares so much that last week he was beside himself that we couldn't get set properly. And today he was beside himself when he didn't make another acrobatic, amazing catch. Because he cares. Because he cares. You remember last year when he was hurt and he came back before anybody thought he would? You want to talk about durability? You want to talk about who cares? You want to talk about toughness? That's Mike Gesicki. You want to build your culture around guys like that. You got to choose, too. That's another thing, right? As a franchise. You've got to choose. Remember, I always talk about pieces. You guys know I'm always talking about pieces. What pieces do you have? If a regime comes in, what pieces are you building around? Who is your core? You want to pick your core wisely. And if you're going to pick a core, you want to pick a guy like Mike Gesicki. Not only does he play with his heart out, not only does he show toughness, but also in the modern NFL, I know some people like, Omar Kelly wants to say, oh, he can't block and this and that. In the modern NFL, there are certain positions that have fallen into favor and certain positions that have fallen out of favor and certain personnel that work better with the schemes that we want to run in the modern NFL that work better against different defenses and whatnot. Mike Gesicki is one of those guys, that hybrid tight end wide receiver, just monster athletic person. 6'6", a beast, can beat coverages. Even if he's covered, could come down with the ball. Those are the guys you want to build around. And you could tell that he got a lot of his swag and his leadership lessons from Fitz. And I love that because Fitz is a blue-collar, lunch pail guy. You really want to build around a guy like Gesicki. So the last thing I'll say, when I'll agree with everybody in the chat, is pay the man. And I don't know about the franchise tag. Don't franchise tag him. Don't insult Mike Gesicki like that. I'm not saying it's not a big payday. It's a big payday. But why wouldn't you lock this man up? Don't tell him he's on another 1-year trial. Don't do that to Mike Gesicki. Sign Mike Gesicki to a long-term deal, okay? A 3-year, a 4-year deal. Lock him up. Don't play games. Stop playing games. You played games. It didn't work with Flowers. It didn't work with Karras. It didn't work with Van Noy. You look silly now. Don't do it again. Learn your lesson. If they learn their lesson with the defense and now Flores is calling a more aggressive cover man defense, well then learn it with the roster too. Learn it with your personnel moves. Pay Mike Gesicki and knock it off. I always saw somebody talking about Odell and then signing Watson. I mean, look, Odell, the thing with Odell is you already got some interesting personalities in this locker room, I think. You already got some. And they're obviously not gelling very well this year now. They gelled well last year, and they gelled really well the end of the first year. They're not gelling very well this year. You want to bring a guy like Odell Beckham into the team? I gotta say, I'm not for it. He's different than Mike, right? Mike is on the upward trajectory still. Mike's just about to hit his prime right now. The next 2 years, this year even, that's Mike's prime. Mike's hitting it. That's like when everything comes together, like age, knowledge, will to win, energy, durability. It's all at that. Mike's right there. Odell's on the back end, right? He's still a good player. He's still an extremely talented receiver. But Odell's on the back end of that, right? You're going to bring a guy in even if you get him at a discount, which you probably will. And that's another thing. Doesn't Miami do that too? Look at Will Fuller, right? Will Fuller, he got paid pretty good, and he can't stay healthy. And one of the things he's always had on his resume is he can't stay healthy. We keep doing that too, don't we? Like we bring in these, like, we let our guys go. We let our homegrown Miami Dolphins go, who could have played a solid more 5 years for us. We let them go. And then we go out on the market and bring in some like wild card who was kind of good. We put him on a 1-year deal. And then if he does okay that year, we put him on a 2-year deal. And then maybe we'll give him another 2-year deal, but we'll front load it and back load it so he's going to be cut and everybody knows he's going to be cut. And that's the other thing, right? Look, we're never going to go back. We're never going to go back to the 70s dynasties or the 80s dynasties or even the 90s dynasties. You know why? In this league, not just Miami. The league's never going to go back because free agency and the new generations of players simply don't have that same allegiance because it's not structured that way anymore, right? You don't get drafted and then stay with a team for life unless you're a franchise quarterback. And that's a fact of life, and that's okay. But one of the ways that you can kind of counteract that as best you can, and you can build a culture, and you can build guys who care and put their all on the line for your franchise every day, you really need to sign guys to longer term deals and stop bringing guys in and out where they know they're going to be cut after a year, or they know they're going to be traded after a year, or they know their contract is so backloaded that they're never going to see most of the money that they signed for. You got to stop doing that, because then when you put players on the field who know they're just there for a year and they're just journeyman players, and they're only there to plug and play for one run, 1 year, and then they're definitely cut next year, or they're definitely restructuring next year, or they're definitely, whatever it is. If you keep bringing in guys that are a constant revolving door, then they're not going to have any allegiance to your city or to your team or to anything that you're about. They're going to be looking to minimize their risk, minimize their injury, minimize their exertion, and maximize their return. And that's human nature. That's not faulting the players, right? That's nothing against them. That's against the organizational philosophy that allows and incentivizes that type of behavior and that type of play. We've got to stop doing that too. We've got to start bringing in guys who are younger, more long-term, who we think are key pieces in free agency. And then the guys that we draft, that we grow, we've got to keep them locked down. So we've really got to alter our philosophy in that way too. I think if you look at this year to last year, I said it before, one of the reasons we're where we are record-wise is because we got rid of so many veterans. We could have brought them in as longer-term solutions, but we used them for 1 year as rentals, and then we got rid of them. And that's no good. That's just no good. We've got to change that philosophy as well. Now, I see somebody laid out the question. It was King Mill. Look, what would our record be with Fitz as QB? I mean, I'll tell you right now, I think it'd be closer to 500. Maybe not at 500, but it'd be much closer to 500. That much I can promise you. It would be much closer to 500 if we had Fitz. And that's not because, again, it's not because Fitz is a franchise-changing generational quarterback either. That's not the reason. But Fitz brings an element to the team that Tua certainly does not bring and that Brissett does not bring, which is sheer gutsy leadership, experience, and honestly, I mean, I know it's kind of ironic to say right now, I'll say durability, but I mean, he's out for the year. But look, he does bring durability as far as he's going to get up and play most games in a season. I mean, this was a freak accident for him. Somebody like Tua is not bringing that to the table as much. Even Brissett is durable. He just doesn't have the skill and the. I'm not saying Brissett doesn't have leadership, but I'm not going to say that about Tua either. I do think it's a little suspect that Tua was not elected a captain as a second-year starting quarterback. It's a little weird. And Brissett looks like he has decent leadership. So I'm not going to say these guys aren't leaders, but I am going to say that Fitz was an exceptional leader. And when you have an exceptional leader in the locker room, it just adds a lot to it. That being said, too, we've said this, too. Right? That the lack of veterans, getting rid of all our veterans from the locker room is part of the reason that we're struggling this year. And I don't really think that's debatable. I think most people, and Doug Lee's said it 1,000 times, I think most people would say that we are struggling and that the biggest change from last year to this year was the exodus of all these veteran players. So just having Fitz in the locker room, not necessarily because he's an amazing quarterback or from that quarterback perspective at all, but just having Fitz in the locker room as a veteran presence, I think would have changed this season for the better. We just have such a deficiency of veteran leadership in the room. And that's another reason you got to pay Gesicki. At this point, he's going to be a veteran, a seasoned veteran who's seen the highs, seen the lows. You get rid of him, you're just getting rid of another veteran. And John says, honestly, players come to Miami for the no state tax and the scenery and don't come to play like Mike Gesicki does. I think that's true. And I think it's a shame. And I also think that a lot of media narratives, and this goes for football, but it goes for other things in the world too, especially these days. I think media narratives start to take hold, right? If the media member says it or we say it to each other enough, we start to think it's true. And one of the biggest things is, Miami, because we try to use it as a selling point, we're like, oh, Florida has no income tax, no state income tax, and it's beautiful weather. We say it so many times that we believe that that's why every player wants to come here. And I don't know that every player wants to come here for that, but I think a lot of them think so. They want to come. They have summer houses or winter houses down there anyway. They like to hang out in Miami. It's a attractive location. It's a ritzy locale. It's flashy. They also save on the income tax. So when they're getting these big contracts, they're going to save a lot of money. When you're getting when you're getting a day-to-day paycheck, it might add up, but it's not that huge. When you're getting a huge contract and there's no state income tax, that's a big plus. But I also think we put so much emphasis on those things because it just becomes a narrative that we take to be true, whether it is or not. I think there is, why are we all Miami Dolphins fans? Why do we care about the Miami Dolphins so much? Well, there is a really important, prideful, proud, iconic, identifiable in brand culture to the Miami Dolphins. There's a storied, legendary history. There's a camaraderie, if you're a part of that franchise, this franchise, that goes a long way. And I think we need to identify more people who want to be a part of that legacy and want to be a part of this franchise and bring those people in. And then when we bring them in, we've got to make sure that we convey that we also care about them and we see them as part of the long-term solution, not just as a one-year piece. That's another important thing that we've got to do as a franchise to, use what we're known for and the pride of our organization to our advantage and not just keep attracting players and signing players who want to be here for the income tax or lack thereof and because it's, a nice weather. We got to start bringing in guys who want to be here. And, if an elite quarterback wants to come here, whoever they want to be here for the right reasons, we got to bring them here. And if they're here already and they want to stay here, we've got to keep them. And we've got to lock them down. We just do. That's part of the issue. So I hope Mike Gesicki gets paid. I'm really not big on the Odell Beckham signing idea, and I don't think we're going to do it. One thing I find interesting, and I'm glad we got the win today because I don't want that top 5 pick because we're not going to have it anyway. It's going to Philly. I really don't want to add insult to injury this year and have given up a top 5 pick that we could have used as leverage or we could have used to pick a really, great player. I don't want to even think about it. So I hope we keep winning. But it'll be fun if we win. It'll be fun if we have victory Sundays. It'll be fun if we continue to do that. But one other thing I found interesting, and this will kind of be the last topic of conversation before I let you guys go to your live streams for the games and whatever else, is at the trade deadline, there was more to the story than just not signing Deshaun, right? We didn't sign Deshaun Watson. We didn't. But one of the other things I found interesting, and I just want to touch down, you need continuity. Look at the Steelers, 3 coaches in 50 years. That's true. I mean, right? It's not just coaches. You don't want to keep a coach who's not doing well. But at the same time, you want to develop an identity as a team, an identity as a franchise. So that you're not just walking in and out of some company with a Dolphins logo every year and then getting your paycheck and then going somewhere else. You want to develop culture where you feel like you are a Miami Dolphin, where when you retire, you might get employed by the Miami Dolphins radio show or part of the organization or something else affiliated with the Dolphins. You might settle in South Florida. You really want to attract those type of people, and you want to have continuity so guys feel like they're part of it. Then they're going to lay more on the line. Then they're going to believe in it more. Then they're going to believe in the systems we implement more. Then they're going to play harder. Then the logo is going to mean a lot more. I agree. But back to my other point. At the trade deadline, there were two stories, right? One story was the Deshaun Watson trade and the Deshaun Watson issue. The other story was that we didn't move anybody. We didn't move Devontae Parker. We didn't move Xavier Howard. We didn't move a lot of guys that there was speculation that we might move. And I think that tells some of the story too. I think whatever is happening with Miami, and whether we're hopeful about it, whether we agree with it or not, that's debatable, right? Are we really encouraged by this current staff or this regime? No, we're not. And I'm not one of the commentators, and you could book it and you could know it, that when we lose a game, I'm going to jump off the ship and you guys tune in here and I'm just saying fire everybody, forget about it. But when we win, I'm so optimistic and everything's great, and I'm never going to be that high and low. I'm just going to be objective and give it to you guys the way it makes sense, okay? But one thing I will say is that they must have some kind of plan. I know it seems like they don't because of just how bad this year was. I think they had a plan. It just failed this year. I think their plan was to go with the youth movement, clear cap space for next year to retool, and it just didn't work out. But they didn't trade those key players, I think, because they had and have some kind of plan. There's a reason they didn't get rid of these guys. And so I would be a hypocrite if I said sign guys, keep guys long term, and then I was mad that they didn't trade certain guys that they see as key pieces to our franchise. So the fact that they didn't trade X, they didn't trade Parker, even if you think they should have, which it makes sense, right? Parker's hurt. X is at his highest value now. We're paying him a lot. I could understand why you would trade him, but at least we can say that they see some value in these players, and they see some value in these guys as key pieces to the point that they didn't feel the need to trade them, or maybe they weren't getting offered, enough to trade them. But either way, they held fast, and they said, these are our guys, these are Miami Dolphins, and we're going to stick with them for right now. That's just an interesting tidbit. So as the future is upon us, we'll see what happens. Now, we got a quick turnaround. I don't think that this good feeling's going to last forever because we got a quick turnaround Thursday. We're playing an opponent who has traditionally beat up on us. So if there's anything we can do, it's to let's just hope on Thursday. Here's what I hope to see Thursday. I hope that when Thursday comes along, I hope that our defense comes out the way that we saw them come out the last 2 weeks. Even if we don't win, I just want to see the defense play. I want to be in the game. I want to see some toughness. I want to see some pressure. I want to see some aggressiveness. I want to see our corners covering guys. I want to see some turnovers. I want to see some sacks. I want to see us at least get close to Jackson, even if he slips out. I want to see that on Thursday. And I think it's going to be Brissett, and I just hope he hangs in there. But it'll be maybe a tough week. So this week, guys, enjoy the NFL, right? Because sometimes when the Fins lose, the NFL's not even as fun. Football in general is not as fun. Your Sunday's not as fun. Your Monday's not as fun. Listening to these podcasts isn't always as fun when we lose. It's much more fun when we win. So I want you to enjoy the Victory Sunday. Enjoy the other games. Enjoy the Sunday night game. Enjoy the Monday night game. Get ready for Thursday. If there's any other news that comes out, or just maybe a preview, depending on how my week shakes out, I'll do a video for you guys and put that out. If not, you'll talk to me Thursday night or sometime around then after the game, and then we'll see what happens Sunday since we're not playing. But enjoy this Victory Sunday. It's been almost 2 months since early September. It is now early November. We have not won a game. So there's nothing wrong with enjoying this Victory Sunday and just embracing it. Wins don't come easy in the NFL. We've been slogging through every Sunday. We've been on these podcasts. We've been watching the TV. We've been talking to each other. We've been on the message boards. We've been wearing our aqua and orange. We've been waiting for this. And we finally got it. So enjoy it. And it was also extra sweet since the Texans were playing all these games with Watson back and forth and then releasing all these rumors and whatnot that maybe threw us off. It's nice that we were able to beat them. I love that. Beat them at least and put them in their place. And I want to beat the Jets too, and I want to beat the Giants. I don't want to be the worst team. I want to be up the ladder a little bit, right? I'll at least be the best of the worst. How about that? You know, if we're shooting for something, let's be the best of the worst, at least, right? And look, John's asking me, besides Mikey G, who do I want to stay on the team? I mean, I think Van Ginkel's having a down year. I thought he was very promising last year. I know he's not really up for the contract, but he's a guy I see that if he improves, he could be long-term. I know people are hating right now a little bit on X and Jones because, you know, our defense hasn't been as good as it was. But I don't think it's time to move on from X and Jones yet. Like, let's see if we make a quarterback change in the offseason. Let's see what happens in the offseason. Let's see what we come back with next year. Let's see who else we sign to fill in some of these gaps in veteran leadership and positions of need. I don't think it's time to move on from these corners. I think X could rebound next year. When he's on and he's making plays, he's a force. I'd like to see him, you know, stay with the team. So there's a couple guys I'd like to see stay with the team, you know, just to answer that question, more than just them. Fuller, I don't think, you know, it's worth sticking with. Parker, you know, take it or leave it, but I'd like to see Parker stick with the team, you know, just to, again, I'm not willing to give up on some of these guys just because of the down years. So I think somebody like Albert Wilson, he's got to go. You know, I mean, there's nothing really going on with him in that regard. Wilkins, his contract's going to be coming up soon. I mean, we got to keep him. So there's a good amount of guys that I would keep on the team as a core, and hopefully we bring in other guys to balance out the loss of veteran leadership. But guys, I love that you joined me. If you haven't, again, please smash that subscribe button. I really appreciate that. We're getting to our goals. We will eventually get there. We'll have the bells and whistles that everybody has. I'm working hard to keep the content up, and I'm working hard to give you guys good content and to keep the show running smoothly and to keep the show as a good product. So again, any suggestions you guys have or whatever, just feel free to reach out to me. Please follow me on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. I do a lot of things besides this show, so it's like kind of following me as the person, as the real dude, Larry, not just the Fins podcaster, but feel free to do that. I'd love to connect with all of you guys. And once this is out, share the video. You know, if you like the video, you got other Fin fans, friends, or you're in groups on social media, whatever, go ahead and share the video and get other people listening. I really respect and appreciate that. Enjoy your victory Sunday. Toast one up, raise one in the air. We got the dub. Fins up. I'll talk to you guys very